What is up, everyone? We are back with another video. This one is called The Fine Art of Revision. Let's get into it. So, Neville said that if people only took one thing away from his teachings, he would want it to be revision. Most people look at this and scratch their heads. What does this mean, though? How do you use it? What do you do? Let me real quick explain that SATS means state akin to sleep. It's often used here colloquially to indicate going into a drowsy state, sleepy, and doing an imagined scene that represents the wish fulfilled. I want to be clear that when I use SATS here, I mean only to reference a state akin to sleep. When I want to talk about an imaginary scene, I will call it a vignette. This references a short but emotionally impactful scene or imaginary act. Okay, back to revision. What are some things it can be used for? These are bulleted points. Release trauma from specific life events of the past that won't shake loose without having to relive or revisit them. Change an ongoing altercation, confrontation, negative experience in the now. Go over your day and relive it according to your desires, which will alter your world and your subconscious mind tomorrow, and sometimes even immediately. After physical ramifications of the past events, to what degree is arguable, but that it does is not. It's alter. Change a previous outcome to your favor. Change a no to a yes. Change a never speak to me again to an I'm sorry, I overreacted. So, how does one go about it? And these are the points here bulleted in paragraphs. You can go into SATS and imagine your day happening the way you would wish it had gone. Forget to brush your teeth? Do a quick vignette where you brush your teeth. Have an argument? Do a quick vignette where you instead hugged and both apologized and laughed. Get hung up on, blocked? Imagine that the person answered and was overjoyed to hear from you. You can do it on the fly. You don't need to be in SATS to do a vignette. Did you just get pulled over? Imagine the cop stopping, saying hello, and then telling you that it was a mistake. Or see them saying that they're giving you a warning. In an argument, imagine the person saying, never mind, I was wrong, sorry, and hugging you. You can do it now, and it will shift the conversation. If not, revise again that evening. Consider something that happened in the past. Create a new story for it. The example I give is that I had to identify my fiance's body at the morgue. Instead of thinking about that day, I instead went into SATS, and my entire vignette was that I imagined I woke up beside him and rolled over to snuggle against him. I said, I had a terrible dream where I had gone to identify your body at the morgue. He snuggled me close and reassured me, I'm here, I'm alive, it's okay. His exact words were different over a few repeats of the vignette, but what matters is that he reassured me. Now, did this bring him back from the dead? No, I don't have that kind of faith. However, it has left me peaceful about it and gotten rid of some of the everyone I loves dies feeling. Remember, feelings create. I don't want to draw people into my life anymore who are about to die. I want my loved ones to live. Consider something you've been told many times by family or society. For me, one example was, you come from a long line of poor migrant farmers. I decided to revise this affirmation. I come from a wealthy, money-savvy family. Good money management is in my DNA. I only do this when I've settled myself down with a good breathing technique so my mind isn't prone to argument. Tell yourself a new story. I was raised by loving, happily married parents on the family farm. In fact, I had a horrific childhood. The purpose of this is to change your subconscious programming. I don't know if it really can bring people back to life, really give you rich parents, yada yada. What I do know is that this is where a lot of what they like to call self-concept comes from. So revise your story for you. Revise your story so that you stop feeling like my childhood was garbage and instead can tell your subconscious mind a new backstory for the current avatar/character you are playing as. Backstory determines behavior in games. Well, hello. It does in real life too. Imagine that instead of negative 20 in the bank account, you saw plus 40 in the bank. Double the number. Neville/Joe, someone says. I'm not sure what they mean. Joe Dispenza. You can do any revision technique either in SATs, good for vignettes or old traumas, or with the eyes open, and just imagine to tell yourself a better story with eyes open. SATs is not necessary to revise or even for your vignette to work. A footnote, give it as much faith and belief that this is what really happened as you can. I haven't personally, literally, and completely forgotten anything that really happened, but I've lost many emotional triggers and many psychologically damaging beliefs. You can too. The rest we might be able to argue about, does it for real change the past? But if done well and consistently, one thing I'm completely certain of, revision will change your subconscious programming and your behavior / mental and emotional state / reactivity. It can lower anxiety levels, free you of irrational reactions even you don't understand, stop self-sabotage, including in relationships, and alter people's reactions to you on a level you can't imagine or dream of until you've experienced it. Go forth and revise, my friends. You may be free of the shackles of your history. I like it. I can get down with this. A lot of the post resonates for me because this ebook that I just released is about the same thing. It's about rewriting your story. It's about going back to, and it's not so much the situations that you need to identify as far as the techniques that I give in my ebook, but it's the beliefs formed around these situations. Let's say in her example, she has this belief that I come from a long line of poor immigrant farmers. And you want to change that belief to I come from a line, like she said, of savvy, wealthy millionaires. Then, yeah, like she's retelling a story. Now, the belief at the heart of that would be underneath that, would be I'm going to be just like my parents. And the belief underneath that is that I'm not cut out for money. I'm not cut out for a life of wealth or a life of comfort. I am meant for hardship. I'm meant to struggle, etc., etc. You can keep digging down to what those beliefs may be underneath that. And a lot of times, like I've said in previous videos and in my book, the core belief that I think for a lot of people that I see again and again popping up is something along the lines of, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of this. I'm not worthy of this money. I'm not worthy to be a millionaire. I don't deserve the good life. That's okay for them, but it's not cool for me. That's okay for those people over there. They can have the good things and the comforts and the good things that life has to offer, but not for me, because I come from this line of people who've had to struggle. And that's my story, is that I'm going to struggle. I am struggling. So going in, finding those beliefs and saying, you know what? There's an exercise in this book that I have for you guys. And it really is about going in, and there's a particular exercise where you visualize your belief disintegrating, and you say, and you have a practice, is I have the belief that I am cut out to struggle, because that's just like my family did. And I choose to replace this belief with the belief that I am cut out for the good life. I deserve all good things. All good things come to me. I'm deserving of wealth. I'm deserving of prosperity. I'm deserving of having a comfortable life and having material wealth and freedom, financial freedom. Now, just saying this aloud isn't going to do much, but if you go in and do the particular exercise as outlined in my ebook and do it as a practice and have it and find the multiple beliefs that you were holding that are holding you back, go in them and fucking fix them to the beliefs that you do want, it is going to make an effect. I promise you. It worked for me. It's worked for other people, and I know it can work for you as well. With that being said, let's see what some of these comments are that the people left here. This is a too long of a comment. This comment's almost as long as the post. It's so funny when people drop these long essay comments, but here is a comment from the OP. So it really is incredibly healing, particularly for those who don't want to relive the original experience. I'd like to point out, however, that we're all delusional. So there's a couple points here. One, they've proven we literally don't see our environment realistically. An example from Tony Robbins: have you ever walked in the kitchen for the salt shaker and looked in the cabinet? It's not here. And then your family member comes over and takes it off the shelf you literally just looked at. Your eye saw it, your brain didn't register it. That happens to me all the time. It's more than I'd care to admit. Okay. Number two, they've also proven in studies that people who most pride themselves on being realistic actually exaggerate negativity to delusional extremes. Self-styled realists are actually pessimists. I believe that. I really believe that. Three, human memory is notoriously terrible. It's awful. Ask 5 people to describe an event and you'd think they were describing 5 different events. I had this experience with a friend of mine back in high school where he would just be telling this story of this thing that had happened, and I was there, and I'm just listening to him tell the story, like retelling the story to these other people, and I'm just like, yeah, that's just like really not how it went down, but I guess I won't say anything. Because he might have been telling this story to some girls or something, like as if he would do that a lot. He would use storytelling and just tell stories almost to like impress people, impress girls that we were hanging out with. I've never been much for that. I usually use situational humor. That's my preferred way of communicating, having a good time. I would like to get better at storytelling though. I've noticed that Raymond Reddington, like on that, I just gave that example in the last video, in Blacklist, is extremely good at storytelling. And if you read good internet copywriting anywhere, good YouTube videos, good persuasive material, a lot of the time it is story-based. It is guiding somebody through a story where they can identify with the character in the story, or maybe the character is themselves that they're identifying with now. And it is extremely powerful, an extremely powerful way of communicating. I suppose that's a bit removed from the point of this post and what we're discussing here today, but not completely, because what we are doing by rewriting these these stories, since we as human beings understand things in stories, and that's how we make sense of things. The same way that, when companies advertise to you, say it's a charity company, right? And the charity company is saying, hey, well, there's 100,000 kids that don't have access to clean drinking water. This is your chance to give them, to donate so that they have access to this water. Now, that's terrible. It's awful, right? That 100,000 kids don't have access to drinking water, right? But it doesn't get us emotionally involved. It doesn't elicit that emotion from us. From our human perspective, what's far more powerful, and what these companies often do, is they show you a story of one of these children. They say, hey, look, here is Maya, or whatever her name is. And they show her picture and or her on video. They show the village, what state the village is in. They explain the story of how she's grown up and how her mother has to walk miles to get a jug of water, clean water for her to drink, and how her feet have blisters and her body is aching. And the mother herself maybe is only 15 years old or something. And the whole entire story, you see the weathered face, this sun on their face, and how they've been, just the state that they're living in, how everything is such a struggle for them. And you say, oh my gosh, you watch this whole hour program. In fact, I did. There is like a whole thing about drinking water, clean water. And they had their ads on YouTube, and my dad and I watched this video one time. It was like an hour long, and we felt compelled, and we did donate to this company. I think we donated like $150 or something, because it's powerful. It gets you invested. It gets you emotionally feeling for these people. And, that's just as an example, one way that storytelling, the telling of a story that you can relate to, and you feel like you are identifying with these characters now, gets you to take action, or gets you, in this case, to, if you're rewriting your own story, imagine how much since we're so emotionally invested by stories, and this, if we're telling ourselves constantly this story of our life that's so tragic, do you want your story to be a tragedy or do you want it to be a comedy? Do you want it to be an adventure story? So anyways, a bit of a side point, but I think it bears merit to this discussion of how much we identify with stories. Now, the more time between an event and the description, the more widely it varies from reality. That's going again about the fact that we don't recall things very accurately. Like I said, my friend would be telling these stories and I'd be like, that is not how it happened at all. So don't worry, you're delusional no matter what you do, and so is everyone else. So a nice little way of saying, hey, look, you have permission to do this. The way that you might be remembering something might not be how it happened anyway. You know, last night, my girlfriend and I were playing tennis, and she got extremely frustrated because my serves were going in. When my serves are on point, when I'm getting them in consistently, my first serve, they go in, they're pretty fast, they're pretty powerful. A lot of the time, she can't get to him. She can't even get a racket on it, as they say. And they're acing her and using tennis terminology. And she was very frustrated. She said, I can't, every single time she's super down, like we go out and play and I just get like stomped all over. And I'm just like, look, like there was a ton of shots that you hit, really good shots that you hit that I couldn't get to. I couldn't even get to them in time, like really well-placed shots. And it's like, we have this selective memory where it's like, we only remember the one side of the story a lot of the time. And if it's tending to be the glass half empty side of the story that we're remembering, or all the negative things, it's like we have that selective memory and we're just like, okay, like I don't see any of this. I don't see any of the good that happened. I'm only seeing the bad. And we really want to get on that other side where we're seeing the good and selective memory, apply it to the negative stuff. Fuck that negative stuff. Look, well, I got all these shots in. I was able to hit all these shots in that Alex couldn't return. I was able to do this, and this. I was able to do kind of like my friend that I'm describing. Honestly, that is a good quality. If he's remembering all these stories so much more favorably to him than the way that they actually happened, that's kind of awesome. Maybe for me, as somebody sitting there, I'm like, bro, like this is not what happened. But for him, that's just reinforcing his belief in himself the whole time. Like, oh yeah, I'm just awesome. I'm gonna tell these girls all this stuff about what I did and how this all went down, how everything went amazingly because of me, because I was there, So anyways, funny little tangent. The art of revision, the fine art of revision, interesting post again. And I've mentioned this before. Yes, like with this particular approach, I haven't had much experience doing revision to the extent that they have, but I do have experience going in, rewriting these beliefs. And like I said, that guide that I have, I've had a lot of success using the techniques that I give in this guide. I really think that on a certain level, it's the same thing, but I think that going in and finding the beliefs themselves may be even more powerful than revision. Although Neville is claiming here, if he had one thing that people could take away, it's the art of revision. Now, I'm not arguing with that. I'm not saying that it's not powerful. I'm thinking that maybe if you were to use revision, if you were to use and be like, oh, this could be like this, I could have had this experience instead, that could work. I think though also that getting in touch with your belief itself is even more powerful, because let's say that you just do revision on something. Well, even if you revise the past, you're still going to have that memory, like they said, of the original incident. And your mind might go back and be like, oh, but this is what really happened. Well, what do you do in that case? Well, if you've gone in and purposefully taken a belief and plucked it out by the roots and installed a new belief into your belief system, into your mindset, then you have that belief to fall back on. You can consciously say, well, no, I have this belief now. This is my new belief. So there's really no kind of, it's a little bit of like a fail-proof method is the way that I would like to say that liken it to, because regardless of what happened in the past, even if you have that memory of the revised, but then also the incident, the original incident, if it doesn't matter what the incident was at that point, because you're like, I'm choosing to have this belief. This belief is now what I'm going to experience. This is what I'm looking for now. My RAS is looking for this in my environment. But anyways, guys, another great post here. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys have experience with revision? A lot of experience with it. I would love to know. I've gotten some comments, like great comments recently about imaginal scenes, about overlaying your imaginal act onto the 3D. And I'm wondering, if you guys have any examples of revision working really well for you, I would love to hear them. With that being said, much love as always. Drop us with a like, hit us with a subscribe. Lucifer is waiting. Isn't that right? Look at him. Got his face down in the pillow. And with that being said, guys, we will see you in the next video.